Hi, welcome to this month's Donorfy Deep Dive. We are going to go through our integration with Eventbrite. We are going to look at why we use Eventbrite, how the Donorfy and Eventbrite connection works, how you manage your data across those two platforms, what the connection actually does, so what is brought through into Donorfy, and then a step-by-step guide to setting up the integration, including configuring the integration in the first place before we start setting up events and campaigns. So why do we integrate instead of building events into Donorfy? Well, the integration model means that every element of functionality is best in class. So we hope that we have provided you with the best in class fundraising CRM. And then we link to what's considered to be the best in class of every other area that we need within the system. So Eventbrite is considered to be the leader in the field. There are some fees for Eventbrite that we know. They are free for free events, and then there is a charging structure for paid events, but there's no commission, so you can choose to absorb the fees or pass them on to your clients. And using the integration model means that we can ensure that all areas of the system are improved and enhanced and up to date because they are powered by each one of those software houses individually. So also in Eventbrite, what we can do then is allow you to run any kind of event. So all sorts of things can happen in Eventbrite. They allow you to run gala dinners, trainings, online training, custom questions can be added to your orders, you can add extra things in, you can take a donation. So it's quite powerful functionality, and it can even do things like managing your table plans for gala dinners. So there's a lot that can be done in Eventbrite. So they've already built some really useful and user-friendly software. So we're just connecting that in so that we can bring in the information from the event to Donorfy. And the reason that we are running events in the first place is to generate income and awareness, and also to build the relationships with those people joining those events. And that's the kind of information that we then pass through into Donorfy, which allows us to do the reporting. So how does this connection work? Well, there are several ways of getting the information into Donorfy. We can use third-party events platforms using the API, so you can add anything in that you would like to. That would be a custom integration. You can key the information in individually, and obviously you can move the information through via our integration with Eventbrite. And then often the next stage after setting up your event is to ask people to fundraise for that event. And we have the separate integration with Just Giving that can pass that information through. But today we're going to focus on the Eventbrite connection. So what information do you manage in which platform? So Eventbrite, that is where you're going to manage the whole event. So each individual event is captured and managed through Eventbrite. So that's all the details needed to run that event. The ticket types, the number of places, any additional merchandise, t-shirt details, table numbers, all of that information is managed in Eventbrite. And then Donorfy is used to capture and manage a 360-degree view of your supporters and the income against them over a period of time and per individual as well. So it's really about reporting. Who came to those events, how many people came, what was the ROI, and setting up auto tagging so that it can improve and drive the segmentation when it comes to that reporting. What does the connection actually do then between the two systems? So Eventbrite will create new constituents in your Donorfy database if they don't exist already. And for the booker and the attendees, you can move information about what they are attending and the fact that they have paid for that, if it's a paid for event. We can also now create custom questions in Eventbrite to pass over their marketing preferences. So their preferences for communications, which we couldn't do previously. So Eventbrite doesn't have a series of questions built in. You can add your extra questions and you can pass those through now into Donorfy through the mapping that we'll see in just a moment. And then onto the timeline, when someone books into your event on Eventbrite, they will see an order activity or an attendee activity. And in the transaction, if it's a paid for event, you can allow up to 3 allocations for the ticket fee, the optional donation, and any merchandise or additional items that have been added. We can add those in as well and map those also through into Donorfy. So how do we set that up? So the first thing to do is we configure the integration. The second thing is to set up your event in Eventbrite. Then you create your custom questions against that event in Eventbrite. Then we set up the campaign in Donorfy. And we map the two together. So we map the event in Eventbrite to the campaign in Donorfy, and we'll see that in action in just a moment. And then you can publish the event on your website and start to take in bookings for that and passing the information from Eventbrite to Donorfy automatically. How do we set up and configure the integration in the first place? So the details of this are on our knowledge base, and there's a link from this article as well. So a link from this deck. I will send that round. But here is a little quick snapshot of what we need to do. So the first thing is you need to find your API key in Donorfy. So under configuration, here, and then system settings, underneath there you will find your unique API key. Once you've got that, you then go and log into Eventbrite, into your account details. And under the account details, you'll find an area called developer links. And under developer links, you've got app management and webhooks. So go to webhooks first. And in that webhooks, there'll be a place to add a webhook. Go and click that link and follow the details on the Eventbrite portal. You'll need to add some details into that webhook, into the form when you're creating the webhook on Eventbrite, and they are all found on our knowledge base. So there is an article called Linking Eventbrite and Donorfy, and you can see it gives you the information that you need to put into the webhook and also the app management when we get to that point. So we add the webhook in first, save that. Then we go back to app management and create a new app, and again, follow the instructions on the Eventbrite portal for adding in the details, and the details that you need, again, are here on the knowledge base article. What you're then going to see under the app management space is a link that says show client secret and OAuth token. We want to copy the personal one from under here. Just move that out of the way. Copy the personal OAuth token. And we're going to go back to Donorfy and add that into the settings. So we copy that out of Eventbrite, then back to settings and configuration and settings in Donorfy, find the Eventbrite settings this time and add in that code that you've just copied from Eventbrite. That means our configuration is then set up, so the two systems are connected together. Also on that Eventbrite settings page, you will see that you've got space underneath to add in your general campaign settings. So these are the default settings for any campaign that will pass through from Eventbrite into Donorfy if you don't set up an individual campaign in Donorfy to capture that information. So we've added in our settings key here, and then we can indicate which campaign all the default campaigns will go to. So in this case, we've set up a general campaign. The payment method that we're always going to pass through, unless it's overridden on an individual campaign, and we'll come back to that later, is Eventbrite sales. And you can see underneath here the three allocations for the payments coming in. So for the ticket fee, we are going to send that to an event registration fee. It's going to our general fund, and it's being attributed to the events department. The second allocation is the ticket purchase. That is going as a donation. The donation made as part of that ticket purchase. That is going as a donation to our general fund, and that's also being attributed to the events team. And finally, that third allocation that you can pass through from Eventbrite into Donorfy when a ticket is purchased, you can add additional items to any event that are paid for, so it might be merchandise or wristbands, for example. Then we are sending that through to Donorfy marked as a merchandise product, And again, it's going to the same fund and the same department. But you could have each allocation going to a different fund and a different department if you wanted to. So when we come to do the reporting out of that financial information, it will show the correct codes. So there we go. So we're setting the default mapping for the campaign in this area, but it can be ridden by individual campaign, and we'll see that in just a moment. So the next thing we're going to do is go back to Eventbrite and set up a new event. You log into Eventbrite, you click Create an Event, which will appear at the top right of the screen. And then you're presented with this page where you can add in some event details. You can create the tickets that go with that event, so the ticket types, and some additional settings at the bottom. So once you've added that in, just save. And then we're going to create some custom questions to go with that event in Eventbrite. So we click on Manage for that event. So previously we were in Edit on that last page. Now we're in Manage, and then we go to Order Options and then Order Form. Click the radial for each attendee, and that will present to you a button that allows you to create a question. And here is an example then of that page, so where you're adding your custom questions. So the purpose of making this connection, enhanced connection between Eventbrite and Donorfy, is to pass through these permissions for marketing communications. So what we're adding here, or the example here, is that we are going to ask everyone who books a place on our event if we can contact them about fundraising. Make it a radio button. That means there's only one choice that they can choose. And then we've given the answers that the options that they've got. So the yes or no answer. And save that. So we can see that in a little bit more action here. So here is my event that I'm looking at. It's A Great Cause Easter egg hunt for 2019. Here's the first page that I come to when I go to create it. It's the edit page. So I've got all the event details as we saw just a moment ago. I can create the tickets under there and any additional settings, and I've saved that. Then I go into Manage. I go into Order Options, Order Form. I've checked each attendee. That allows me then to add these custom questions. I scroll down to the bottom. I can add another question, but you can see I've got some questions that I've asked here. So now that we have created our event and we have added some custom questions, the next thing we are going to do is to map the two systems together. We'll start by setting up our campaign in Donorfy. So we know how to do that. At the top right of your screen, or the top left, you've got a little orange add button. So we're going to add a campaign. When you get onto the campaign page, the first page you're presented with is your profile. So you need to go in and add all the details to the profile. So name the campaign, etc. Save it, and then you'll have all these extra tabs appear on the side. And the new one that we're looking at is the Eventbrite tab. This is part of the new integration. So we're going to add some details into this Eventbrite page. We'll see the detail on the next page. So what we have on that page is the ability to connect the event that we've created in Eventbrite. I would drop down on this list and it would show me all of the events that I've set up in Eventbrite automatically, and I could just choose from the list. I can then decide which activity will be put onto the timeline of the person who books the event, and whether I want to add something to each individual attendee's record. So if the booker books for several different people, I can make them have Eventbrite order on their timeline, and all their extra people that they added are just Eventbrite attendees, and I can change what these are called. Then underneath that, and we'll see it on the live page in just a moment, we can map the detail. So as we did on the master campaign, which is the default for any campaign, unless you go through this process to override that for each individual campaign, we can say, here are our custom questions that we want to pass through from Eventbrite into Donorfy, and where we want to map those marketing preference answers to. So, can we contact you on email was one of the first questions that I asked in Eventbrite, and I want to map the answer to the channel email and the purpose events emails on the record of the person who is attending or who books, or both. Next question, can we contact you by mail? I only want to map that to the channel mail, and I don't want to map that to a purpose, so I've left that one blank. Next question, can we contact you about fundraising? I don't want to map that to a channel, I just want to map that to a purpose, so I'm mapping that to fundraising emails purpose. These choices, again, would represent, so the channels and the purposes that appear in these drop-downs are the ones that you've set up in your Donorfy database. And the questions at the top are the ones that you added to your Eventbrite event. And underneath here, we've got then the transactions and the payment methods that we can indicate. So again, we can say where we want the allocation for the ticket fee to go, the allocation for the extra donations made against that ticket, and any additional items that are paid for. We could say what product in Donorfy it relates to, so that would be your list of products that you've set up, which fund it's related to, and also which department you want to allocate it to. In this case, all the products are different, but all the funds and all the departments are the same, but you could have those different as well. So just indicate at the top there and at the bottom. Once you've done all that, you can publish your event. So we've connected, therefore, the two systems together. You publish it onto your website. The link to book tickets will take you through to your Eventbrite page, where someone would then go and book their tickets. So let's have a look at that page that we just saw in our Donorfy database. I'm going to sign in, and we'll take a look at the structure of the campaign that we've just seen on the slides there. So if I look at campaigns and find my Easter egg hunt, there it is. We'll see what we've just seen on those screenshots. So here is my Eventbrite tab. And here is the list of events that I've set up in my Eventbrite. So when I set up that Easter egg hunt, it will then automatically appear in the list here for me to choose. This is mapping the two, the campaign here and the event together. I am saying that when somebody books or buys a ticket, whether free or paid for, they are the booker. So on their timeline, they will see Eventbrite order. And I've also indicated that I want every attendee to have something on their timeline as well, create an activity on their timelines, and that activity is going to be called Eventbrite attendee. But I've got choices in here, so this is your list of activities that you've set up, so you could change those if you wanted to. Then underneath here, we've got the mappings that we've just seen for the marketing communication. So here are the questions that I've posed in Eventbrite for this event that we saw earlier. It was on here. There we go. There are the 4 questions. And the first one is mapping to my channel and purpose of email and events email. And here we've got the same list again. This is your list of channels that you set up in your database and your list of purposes, again, as we know. So you can make those whatever you want, so that what you're indicating here is that when you ask somebody what their preference is when they sign up to that event on Eventbrite, where you want to map that information to on their profile when the information is automatically passed through into Donorfy. And finally, the transaction as well that we saw earlier. So again, it's your list of products you could change, your list of funds, and your list of events that will appear here for you to choose from. So once we've mapped all that together, we are finished. So what the customer journey looks like then is that they're going to your website to sign up and book into your Eventbrite event. They are then pulling that information through into Donorfy. Eventbrite is doing all the communications about the particular event, so all the operational emails, if you like. But we also know, obviously, that we connect Donorfy to MailChimp, so that ongoing relationship with those people coming through your website and booking for your event would then be managed in Donorfy through your newsletter or ongoing communications. And we know then we can pass that information back through from MailChimp as well. So let's look at booking someone in and seeing what that journey actually looks like. So as we know, this is my back-end view of my event. I have edited the event, I've created some tickets, I've gone into manage and order form, and I've added my custom questions. I'm then going to book someone into this event. So here it is on my online portal. You can see all the details here. I'm going to click tickets and I'm going to choose to add 2 people into the database and check out. So I am going to say that the first person who has booked here is, let's go with Bruce Wayne, shall we? Just change that email address. So he is the booker and he's also the first attendee. Just make sure that's correct in there as well. And we're going to ask him how he's going to, how he wants to be communicated with. So we'll do some yeses and nos in here. And the ticket 2 is for somebody else. So let's add that in again. Make that 5. So Bruce Wayne has booked and he's taking Martha Jones with him. So we'll do the preferences for her also because we wanted those preferences for all our attendees. And then we'll complete the registration. So it'll tell me that I have booked my places. There we go, and offer, that's the Eventbrite functionality to offer you to share it on Facebook so you get more exposure for your event through the bookers. So once that's done, let's go back to Donorfy then and just refresh here. I'm just going to sign myself back in again. And if I then go and look for those constituents, so I know that they didn't exist in the database already. So if I go and look for Bruce, here we go, there's the new Bruce Wayne. So there's only one entry. So we know that I did it as part of moving that through from Eventbrite. Click into that record. And I've got all the information that I asked for, so didn't need to fill in much for his Eventbrite event this time. But you can see that we've got some of the permissions here already checked. So if that was a brand new record, it hadn't come through Eventbrite, I just added it manually, these would all be as question marks. So this reflects the questions that he's answered on that Eventbrite link. And onto his timeline has gone the Eventbrite order because he was the booker, and Eventbrite attendee because he is going to attend that event as well. If we then look for Martha Jones, who he also booked for, she is also in here as well. Again, a brand new constituent. And her preferences are in there as well. Different ones there for what we ticked for her. And onto her timeline has just gone Eventbrite attendee, not the order because she wasn't the booker or if she had paid, for example. So she's just attending. And then what we can do is when people are going to attend the event, let's have a look and see who we've got as attendees in our event here. Oh, we don't want to add one. We want to manage our attendees. So let's see the attendee list. can download the list there. If we go and check in people, so we can see all the people who've booked. So Laura Linney, James Taylor, Bruce Wayne and Martha Jones are all booked onto our event. If we also check them in from here as well, so I'll check in Bruce Wayne. And again, let's go back to our Donorfy database. There's a little bit of a delay on here, but hopefully we'll see that Bruce has been checked in to the event. So you can do that check-in at your event online or through the Eventbrite app. So when you're at your event, you could be just booking people in on the app or checking people in on the app as they arrive. And then it will pass that information through into your timeline, into their timeline on Donorfy automatically. So if we look at the attendee here, there we go, he's checked in. So we know he attended as well. So all of that detail we can then report on. And you'll notice here on the left-hand side, there's space for team name as well under the activity type Eventbrite attendee. If Bruce Wayne had booked for his company and booked a number of people in, they could have a team name, for example, and that would appear on every attendee's record as well. So we could report out on all the members of that team. So that is the connection to Eventbrite. All this information will be found online. If you've got any questions, you can go to our knowledge base online, so donorfy.com/support, or you can find help from us and also your fellow users at the Facebook chat group. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you for the next deep dive.